Astu Taratasi Srimad Divine Grace of Bhakti Sattva Srila Prabhupada Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Ikriam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Vimanand All glories to the Son of the Buddhas. All glories to the Son of the Buddhas. All glories to the Son of the Buddhas. All glories to Sri Guru and Govardhan. Namo Vishnu Vidai Krishna Prasthava Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Name Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauri Divine Prachayana Shesha Shundara. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Anam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Rudayam Udiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 28, entitled Puranjan Becomes a Woman in the Next Life. Text number 65, right? Barhishvam etadadhyatmam Barhishvam etadadhyatmam Parokshena pradarshitam Parokshena pradarshitam Yat paroksha priyadevo Yat paraksha priyodevo Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Barhishvamedaraita adhyatmam Parokshena pradarshitam Yat paroksha priyodevo Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha
Vaishmanitaratyatmam Parokshena pradarshitam Yat paroksha priyodevo Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Vaishmanitaratyatmam
Parokshena pradarshitam Yat paroksha priyodevo Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Parishmamedaratyatmam Parokshena pradarshitam Yat paroksha priyodevo Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha. Anyone else? Varisham Parokshena pradarshitam
Yat paroksha priyodevo Bhagavan Vishwabhavanaha Mahishman etat adhyatmam Mahishman etat adhyatmam Parokshena pradarsitam Paroksha Yat paroksha priyo devo Bhagavana Vishwabhavana
Mahishman etarathyatmam
Mahishman etat adhyatmam
Parokshena pradashitam
Parokshena pradashitam
Paroksha priyodevo
Yat
Paroksha priyodevo
Bhagavan Vishwabhavana
Barhishmam,
Mahishman
O King Prachinabarhi,
etat
Etat, this, Adhyatmam,
adhyatmam
what is that word? Narration of self-realization.
Narration of self-realization
Prakshina, Parokshina, indirectly. Pradarshitam, instructed. Yat, because. Paroksha priya, interested by indirect description. Deva, the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan, personality of Godhead. Vishwabhavanaha, the cause of all causes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. My dear King Prachinabarhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus I have described the story of Puranjan to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Please repeat. My dear King Prachinabarhi,
My dear King, Prachinabarhi,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus I have described the story of Puranjan to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Purport. There are many similar stories in the Puranas for self-realization. As stated in the Vedas, Paroksha Priya Ivahi Deva. There are many stories in the Puranas that are intended to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects. But actually, these refer to real facts. They are not to be considered stories without a transcendental purpose. Some of them refer to real historical facts. One should be interested, however, in the real purport of the story. Indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man. Actually, the path of Bhakti Yoga is the path of hearing directly about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shravanam Kritam Vishnu. But those who are not interested in hearing directly about the activities of the Lord, or who cannot understand them, can very effectively hear such stories and fables as this one narrated by Narada Muni. Om Ajnana Timjandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chaksham Tamdin Prasmai Sigurina Guru Divachalam Pandam Taigirim Tamande Sigim Gita Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. My dear King Prachinabarhi, the Supreme Personality of God and the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus I have described the story of Puranjan to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. So sometimes people in general are attracted to fables, isn't it? And stories. I remember growing up, there used to be one show on a cartoon. I actually. And I don't know if it's still around anymore, I wouldn't know, but it was called Bullwinkle. And part of that show was a small piece called Aesop's Fables. And it was very fascinating that a certain truth could be presented in a cartoonish way for common men. Just like sometimes we, when we're out on Sankirtan and we're talking to people about Krishna consciousness, and you tell them about Lord Krishna, who's of a different color, who has many colors, has many forms, or you tell them about a deity of Lord Nrsingadev. I remember when the seventh candle came out, in the early days, the Bhagavatam was coming out on a successive way. Prabhupada would translate the book, and BBT would hurry up and put it together, and then we would get the volume, be it 5.1, 5.2, 7, 7.2, 8.1, like that. And every time the book would come out, it was so exhilarating for the devotees to go out and distribute this new book that we just got. I remember when the fifth canto came out in 73, we would go out to the public and we would try to present this book that described the structure of the universe. It was quite a scene. We would have to try and do it in such a way that they wouldn't actually see it, or we wouldn't have to say too much about it, because it was so way beyond a cartoon. So it was quite an experience just to go out regularly and distribute these books as they would come out. So when the seventh canto came out, and on the backside was this picture of Lord Nrsingadev, it was just shocking. It was totally shocking to people. What is this? This looks demoniac. And so many other things they would say. But it was exhilarating to try and explain to people how the Supreme Lord is so omnipotent, what qualifies him as being God, that he could present himself in such, he could appear in such incredible, superhuman, extraordinary, transcendental ways. Be it again in third, fourth, fifth canto, sixth, seventh, eighth, you can go down the line, ninth canto, where he appears to Ambarish Maharaj. I mean, it goes on. And then when the 10th canto came out, the Krishna book was so big. It was quite a scene, because when the book first came out, we were able to get it at a very reasonable price. So the managers of the party, Radha Damodar, would order extra quantities of this big Krishna book, so that when you go out on Sankirtan, you would have your bag and it would be full of these huge books, which were so big and heavy that the devotees would sort of lean over because they were so heavy. And so therefore you had to really, really work hard to get them distributed, because who wants to carry a big book of 20 gigantic books in your bag? And then when the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, the Adi Leela is such a monster book. Now everything's been streamlined, of course, because the printing has become more efficient and cost effective. So it's a bit different. But all of these productions were done to, and Vedic literatures for that reason are so incredible and so important and sometimes bewildering, but attractive to the common person. Otherwise, how can you accept that God has appeared in such incredible forms? But the common person, because they're absorbed in mundane stories, and whether it's love stories or mysteries, battles, they're attracted to these kinds of descriptions, and therefore it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that Krishna would come down in his various incarnations to prove his all-attractive nature. This proves how the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is all-attractive, and why he's also he's also the friend of all, because he makes himself available, and he presents himself in multifarious forms to attract the conditioned souls. Some or other, it's meant to attract the conditioned souls who are terribly entangled in material nature, or just purusha prakriti story. They're simply diving in and out of the material modes of nature, trying to some or other make something of it, when all the while actually it's just a nightmare. It's like a bad roller coaster ride. There's no pleasure to it. You may think it's fun, just like when you go on with. I remember taking my daughter on a roller coaster ride. We thought, well, this is going to be simple and fun. But when this was at some park in California, but when we got on the ride, it turned into a nightmare where people were vomiting, and just see, we try so hard to try and enjoy this material world, but it turns into a nightmare. But when Krishna makes his appearances, and when he engages in his activities, they're so transcendently attractive and unique that even the most fallen or ignorant person, or the most innocent person who may not be considering spiritual life at that moment, can become attracted. And Prabhupada explains here that there are many stories in the Puranas for self-realization. You can look at the various Puranic literatures, and whether it's the Adi Purana, where Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, and he's explaining that famous verse that Srila Prabhupada often quotes, in which Krishna says, Yeme bhakta jana parita, right? Name bhaktas te jana. That he who thinks that he's my devotee is not my devotee. The one who thinks that he's a devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. So everywhere in the Vedic literatures, there's an instruction for the common person to understand and there's a lesson to be learned by those. It's not that it's just their useless conversation, or that's just to take up space in a book. But it's meant to give instruction to the common person to understand the higher levels, how to gradually come to a higher level of appreciation and understanding of spiritual life and the position of the living being in relation to the absolute truth, Krishna. So Krishna is speaking there in the Adi Purana. He's also revealed very nicely by Garuda in the Garuda Purana, where Garuda points out the importance of becoming purified and traveling through all conditions of material life, right? Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavasta kutopiva laksmirat punrikaksha samhaya vihantara suchi. That if you can remember the Lord, no matter what condition you've gone through, and we've all traveled through various conditions, we can all experience that even in the present, what to speak of previous lifetimes. So traveling through all those conditions, if one can somehow or other, if you can somehow or other remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life, then one can become internally as well as externally cleansed. So these instructions given in the Vedic literatures, and again in the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva instructs Parvati. There's a discussion about worshiping, because she noticed that he was meditating on something. So what is it that you're meditating on? I'm meditating on Lord Ram. So please tell me more. What is the highest form of worship? And he goes on to explain that Adhananam Sarvesham Vishnu Adhanam Param Tasmat Parataram Daliyanam Sarat Sanacharam. That the highest form of worship is Vishnu, certainly. But even higher than that, Vishnu Radhanam Param, the devotee or the paraphernalia of the Lord, that is even higher. So again, these instructions, even though to a common person, who's Lord Shiva? He's some interesting looking character with matted locks, and a lot of people in the world these days try to imitate that. They dress and try to imitate Lord Shiva. Smoking and matted locks and whatever. I've been to a couple rainbow gatherings, and everybody thinks that they're Lord Shiva. But no. Lord Shiva recommends that the highest worship is the worship of Vishnu, and that which is in relationship to Vishnu, which namely is his devotee. So again, the instructions are there that it's not a wasting of time and space. In the Vishnu Purana also, there's very nice instructions given by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, ultimately leading to, as we are studying today, the Bhagavad Purana. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest and most, it's the culmination. It's the fruit, the nectarian fruit of all the Vedic literatures. The Vedic literatures are very vast. We've heard many times. We can't imagine finishing them in a lifetime even. But all of that has been so nicely consolidated and made available in the form of the Bhagavad Purana, which we're so fortunate to have here by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And it is meant for those who are expert and thoughtful, just as Prabhupada points out here in purport that to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects. One should be interested, however, in the real purport of the story. Indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man. So the Bhagavad Purana is so nicely given to us that every aspect or every page of it is designed in such a nice way that even the most common person can appreciate it, even liberated souls. Even liberated souls, just like the Shukadeva Goswami, when he heard from his father, when he was in the womb, he came out. The Kumaras, when they heard or smelled the tulsi that was offered to the Lord, even liberated souls are attracted to the beauty of Krishna and his narrations. And this conversation of Sutta Goswami, or Sutta Goswami and the sages, of course, but he's describing this beautiful conversation between Shukadeva and Maharaj Pariksit. And he begins by describing how we've heard many a time that Maharaj Pariksit was accursed, how he realized that now is the time in life to focus on what's most important. It's like sometimes in our own lives, some tragedy may occur and we get a little serious. Oh, maybe this is the time for me to look into something a little bit more important in life. So Maharaj Pariksit and Shukadeva Goswami, they're having a wonderful conversation. So the first canto of Bhagavatam describes this beautiful meeting, and Sutta Goswami is narrating this to the sages. And so this Bhagavatam, especially in every canto, there's something so special about Krishna and his devotees. That is why we consider the Bhagavatam to be the highest of all the Puranas, the most important of all the Puranas, because it's Krishna and his devotees. And it begins by hearing the wonderful offerings of Devahuti. Devahuti, she offers such beautiful, beautiful prayers in the first canto, glorifying the position of the personality of Godhead and the mercy that the Lord has given by descending, and how important it is for the conditioned souls to become aware and attracted to that beautiful form and his activities. So in the first canto, that is so nicely presented. Then Sutta Goswami goes on to explain the second canto, which is all about the process of creation. And again, this is quite fantastic for the common person, how these stars, the planetary systems are situated in a certain space. I remember when we were distributing the fifth canto again, and you would try to, people would look at sometimes the picture, and you'd have to flip over to the next page because it was a little bit too beyond the common person. But Srila Prabhupada, by his expertise in creating this Mayapur Chandraroy Mandir, the Vedic planetarium, is being done in such a nice way that even the common person will be attracted to see how scientific and how complete the description is of the universe. That even a common person can understand, what to speak of scientists. I'd be amazed by it. So this we find in the second canto. In the third canto, Kapila Deva is discussing again with his mother Devahuti the movements of the living beings and how they're traveling through the universe in different forms of life in different planets. Then we go on to the fourth canto, where we're hearing now Narada Muni describing in this fabled story the life of Puranjan, speaking to Prachanabarhi. His sons, of course, were so fortunate to be there also and hear. His sons, the Prachetas, were so fortunate to be able to hear this instruction. So what did they do? They went off into the ocean. I think they were in the ocean for some 10,000 years. And finally they came up. After he had instructed them in Vedic knowledge, after their tapasya, they came up out of the ocean and were able to meet Lord Shiva. And we're so fortunate to get that association to Layami Lavena Apina Svargam Napanar Bhavam. The Bhagavatam tells us how important it is and how rare it is to get the associate Kotishvapi Mahamune. It's so rare that one gets the association of devotees. Amongst millions and trillions is described, hardly a one is actually the liberated soul. Out of millions and trillions, you can imagine, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Manushanam sahasreshu. There's hardly a one that can understand the absolute truth, or is interested in spiritual life, or to speak of understanding the absolute truth. And of all of those, there's the rarest person who actually knows the absolute in full. So all this knowledge is being given in the Vedic literatures. It's not something nebulous or theoretical. Maybe it's just meant for some entertainment. No, this is actual knowledge. It's being given by liberated souls whose business it is to share it. That's our purpose of the Krishna conscious movement. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yaidam paramam guyam mad bhaktesha vidyashati, that one who explains this secret, one who shares this secret, is very, very dear and very, very important. There's no question. And the Bhagavatam is giving us that insight, that information, because that's what will help us in a time of need. That is our that's the critical test. When that time comes that we have to leave this material creation. I remember when I was young, my mother was a maid in a senior care center. We went to one the other day. There was a couple of devotees who are in a senior care home. Nice facility, considering all things. But I remember going to this place when I remember it clearly because it struck me so heavy that I was probably 5 or 6 years old, no older than that. I remember it very clearly. And I went to visit her as she was servicing a patient. And just before I entered into the room, I heard this loud talking. The patient was in the bed and they were calling out. So yeah, I was a bit alarmed, of course, and so I stepped into the door, and this patient was in a bed, and they were looking up into the ceiling, and they were saying, "Who are you? What do you want? Get out of here!" I didn't know what to think. Are they delirious? Are they maybe over sedated? Or are they actually seeing something? It didn't dawn on me until I got the sixth canto, right? Sixth canto of Ajamil. It didn't dawn on me until then that who are these subtle beings that are out there, whose business it is to take us to Yamaraj, take those who are not devotees. They were instructed later on by Yamaraj. He instructed his Yamaduta associates, his servants, that you can take those who have not chanted the holy name of the Lord. But because Ajamil, one time, Prabhupada, I listened to a lecture the other day, Srila Prabhupada was discussing this pastime in a verse. And in the translation, maybe it was in the purport, I forget which one, but the devotee was reading, and I think it was Nitai was reading, and he says that Ajamil had fortunately chanted a number of times, and Prabhupada stopped him, and Prabhupada said, "No, that's not correct. He chanted one time, just one time, and it was sufficient for him to be saved by the Vishnu Dutas." So these stories, these pastimes, they're intended to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects, but actually these refer to real facts. These are not some business, money-making business to create all kinds of stories. Like you can go into the children's section, and there's thousands and thousands of useless little books that don't say anything or mean anything, and they're just meant to sort of color your mind. Just like Rishabhadeva tells his sons, Karmatmakayena Sharira. No, what is that verse? Yeah, Karmatmaka Sharira Bandha. I forget the exact verse, but in it he describes how the mind is colored over by fruitive activity. So we can, it's not that kind of presentation. When we read the Bhagavatam, it's of a whole different experience. It's not to color over your mind or your imagination, but it's meant to give real hard facts. And this is what the great souls that are described in Srimad Bhagavatam were interested in, like Dhruva Maharaj, who went off into the forest in the fourth canto. He went looking for the absolute truth, for God, when he was told that the forest is where where these sages are. So there he went, and it's very nicely described how he became so powerful after 6 months of his austerities that even the whole universe was suffocating. And who was it? Lord Brahma who had to come? I believe it was Lord Brahma had to come and ask him to desist from doing this. You're affecting the whole universe by your austerities, your holding of breath. Everyone was suffocating. So these descriptions, they're meant for those who are have decided that this material world is not a fit place to be. Nayam deodhya bhajam niloke kashtan kamana harte dujame. Lord Rishabhadev tells us, Santapodidyam putrikajena chabya. Sujad jasmad brahma sokyam tonantam. He tells them, no. Don't do like this. You should give up this attraction, this material life, and instead go to the forest and perform tapasya, perform austerity, and make your life perfect. And by that austerity, Sujyad Yasmad Brahma Sokyam Tvanantam, you'll experience a transcendental, never-ending happiness, which is what we're all looking for. We think that it's in cars, or it's in a money bank balance, or it's in some number of girlfriends and boyfriends, or a bunch of boats. I know some people who are buying, who can't get it out of their system that they need to buy a different boat every year. Really? This is the condition of society. So therefore, it's so critical that this knowledge that's being presented in the Vedic Shastras be presented so that they can understand what is the real value, that which is most important in life. And again, every canto is like that, fifth canto or sixth canto, where we're hearing about the value of transcendental devotion. There's so many wonderful instructions given in the Vedic literature. It's all meant to help us understand the value of the process of devotional service. And make use of this temporary material body that we're some or other stuck in right now. So again, we could go on this. This could go on and on forever. It's sixth canto, eighth canto, Ambarish Maharaj, how he's surrendering, and what is that wonderful shloka that describes Maharaj Ambarish when the Lord is speaking to Durvas Muni? Does anyone remember that shloka? Savai Manakti. Well, there was another one. And then, yeah, these sadhus are in my heart, and I am also situated in the core of their heart. So there's so many wonderful instructions given in all these pages of the Bhagavatam, and it's all meant for attracting us away from this distraction that this material world is full of. And it's presented in such a nice way, Prabhupada explains here, that even the common person can understand it. Who cannot understand, who may not even be able to understand them, are very effectively able to hear such stories and fables as this one narrated by Narada Muni. Anyway, go on there. So Prabhupada, any questions or comments? Yes.
Referring to that verse from the 5th canto, 5th chapter, text number 5. Harabhavastava Gavat Kriyastava Didam Manovai Karmatmakam. And the translation is
Nunam Pramata Kurudevi Karma. He describes how people are just mad after useless things.
The translation is, as long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its results in actions. If a person is gauged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept the material body. Good stuff.
It's everything. You can't add to it. It's so complete. Yes, Mataji.
I hope I didn't tell the story. Oh, like that. Before, but my memory is kind of waning just a little bit. You were talking about the Yamadutas. I had an incident in hospice as a nurse. One nurse helper came to me and she said, "You've got to do something." She said, "My husband is telling me to go home and get his guns." And I said, "Well, what's going on?" She said, he's terrified. He sees men standing in the corner, ugly men standing in the corner waiting for him to die.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can imagine the effect it had on me. And she said, "Please give him something." So I gave him this, it's called a cocktail. It's 3 different medications for hallucination and anxiety. I gave it to him, and he stopped, of course, because he was drugged out. But it had a really strong effect on me, because it was like I was experiencing it right there. I went into the room, and he was like holding onto the railings. He was like absolutely terrified. He was seeing this image in the corner.
Yeah. People are entrapped by material life. Prahlad says, right? They're entrapped by material life, and they don't know how to get out of it. That's right.
You mentioned thank you for a very nice class. You mentioned the verse about, from the Vishnu Purana, about the worship of the devotees being higher than the worship of... And I was wondering, because we see that we worship Prabhupada, but also we're worshiping the Supreme Lord, and Prabhupada's always telling us to worship the Supreme Lord. And, but when we hear that verse, it makes us think like, we should just worship Prabhupada or worship the pure devotee completely. So I was wondering if you can kind of just, like, how does that look practically?
Well, we worship because the Lord wants us to respect his devotees. So by his own example, he worshipped, was it King Yudhisthira? Right? washing his feet. And when the Brahmana came from some place to visit him, Sudama came. So he showed by practical example that one should, the position of the devotees is very special. Koti Shvapi Mahamune, they're very, very special personalities. So by his own example, he showed how important that was. And of course, that person that we're surrendering to has to be qualified, has to be proven to be such a deserving person. And so what do? We analyze that person by his activities and by his words. And without a doubt, Srila Prabhupada, as are many others, is such a liberated soul. So to offer that respect, Krishna wants to see that and appreciates that. That pure devotee is also directing that worship to Krishna. It's not that he's accepting it, that he can sit on a chair and get some flowers and some Mahaprasad, and then all the ladies want initiation from him. And no, that's not, far from it. So that person has to be qualified, and that's proven by their example and by their words and by their service to Krishna. Their interest is in helping others. What is that verse? Laibodhu je paradaratara vaiktaranyas tadiri gayana mahamritam bhaktichitta. So chaitato chaitasa indriyartya maya sukaya bharam udvahato vimudhan. Prahlad Maharaj, he tells his father, who was Hiranyakashipu, a big powerful demon, was ready to kill him. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid, because my consciousness is totally absorbed in a transcendental thought, in Krishna, of course. My only anxiety, my only real pain is to see these suffering conditioned souls, and so out of love for them, I'm concerned. So when you express that kind of mentality, that takes the heart of Krishna, that gets the attention of Krishna, and that has to be analyzed in the person. So it's not. It has to be done, of course, intelligently. It's not that we're fanatical. We're not in the Krishna consciousness movement as fanatics, that we just sort of do whatever, the person in charge, like some politician, they say something and people just sort of go on like brainless people. No, we consider what the instruction is, we consider the example, and Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, we refer in a very scientific way, and in that way, our faith and love and appreciation and service to such persons is appreciated by Krishna, and Krishna certainly appreciates that. That would be my answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.